My Lords, first oral question, Baroness Bennett of Manor Castle.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask the question standing under my name on the order paper.
My Lords, DRC faces many challenges, but it's also an important partner. It's home to Africa's largest expanse of tropical forest, including 60% of the Congo basin. The UK condemns the ongoing conflict in the DRC, including the resumption of violence by UN and UK-sanctioned armed group M23. This undermines peace efforts and has caused further insecurity and significant human suffering. We reiterate our support for the regional diplomatic efforts that promote de-escalation and create the conditions for lasting peace in DRC. All support by external actors must stop.
I thank the Noble Lord the Minister for his answer. I'm sure he's aware that this week the multinational mining company Glencore has agreed to pay $180 million to the DRC as compensation for corruption between 2007 and 2018. That follows fines and payments of $1.1 billion around the world. Would the Noble Lord the Minister agree with me that the best way that we could work to help establish stable, secure government and peace in the DRC is to rein in those mining and other Western companies, given the fact that Transparency International notes that there's £100 billion estimated to flow through the UK in dirty money each year, and the Bribery Act of 2010 is now 12 years old. Don't we need urgent action in the UK on bribery and corruption?
My Lords, the Noble Baroness is absolutely right to identify corruption as a major problem in the DRC. It's estimated to cost the country some 10% of its annual GDP. And illicit exploitation of natural resources and smuggling to neighbouring countries is really a big part of that, deeply rooted in particularly eastern DRC, and it's estimated at around $1.25 billion per year. That's 2.5% of the country's GDP, just for the natural resource exploitation. Gold is the easiest and most lucrative to smuggle, and the rate of which is increasing, and increased dramatically over the last year. So, of course, we strongly condemn the actions of any company, in particular those companies that are based here in the UK, that in any way contribute to the further corruption of already fragile systems, with massive repercussions for the future development of that country, the future peace, security and prosperity of its people.
My Lords, in addition to conflict, corruption, environmental degradation and human rights violations, has the Noble Lord seen the report from the United Nations earlier this year about the use of child labour in the DRC, and that 40,000 children in the southern Katanga province alone are mining cobalt there for the lithium that we use in our batteries? 40,000 children, my Lords. Surely the Noble Lord could take this to the big tech companies that include Microsoft and Google and the others, and also use our aid programmes as leverage to stop the exploitation of children in this way.
As ever, the Noble Lord points to a really core issue, and with the DRC providing around 70% of the global supply of cobalt, we have a particular interest in addressing urgently this issue of child forced and bonded labour in cobalt supply chains, and that is reflected in the work that we do through ODA. However, I would acknowledge to the Noble Lord that there is much more we could be doing. Not least through the City of London, the fact that so many large mining players are based here in this country. And it's certainly my intention to try to create a more of a cooperative approach with some of those mining companies to see what more we can do to tackle child labour, but also very widespread environmental contamination. I'll give you one example is a village in Peru where every single inhabitant was registered to have near lethal doses of mercury as a consequence of illegal gold mining. So this is a major problem, one that we absolutely have.
My Lords, this conflict in the eastern DRC has claimed a staggering 6 million lives since '96, and 5 million people have been displaced. So arguably, this is the forgotten conflict, the worst conflict in the world today. Does the Minister agree with me that one of the main drivers of this instability are the actions of the frontline states, Burundi, Rwanda and Uganda, who are financing and developing capacity with different rebel groups and using them as proxies? What assessments has the Minister made of the East African Community Peace Initiative and once the new Kenyan President has taken his place?
We have raised our concerns about the increase in violence at the highest levels both with the DRC and Rwanda, and that includes messages sent by our foreign minister to the president of the DRC and also the Rwandan foreign minister in November. There's been a joint UK, US, France and Belgium Great Lakes Special Envoy statement on the 18th of November, a joint UN Security Council press statement on the 22nd of November. And various ministers from within the Foreign Office have raised the issue on a very regular basis, both with Rwanda and with DRC. And like the Noble Lord, we're extremely concerned by the actions of neighbouring countries in relation to Eastern DRC.
My Lords, the Noble Lord Lord Alton is absolutely right to focus on labour standards. And I hear what the Noble Lord the Minister says about having chats with city people. But actually, the ILO do have standards, minimum standards, that this government could ensure applies to other governments and ensure that applies to the multinationals that the Noble Lady has referred to. What are we doing, for example, to ensure that the ILO Safety and Health in Mines Convention, first adopted in 1995, is applied much more widely? Currently, 27 years later, only 34 countries apply it. That's something that this government could do, support the ILO.
My Lords, we're certainly not thinking of just conducting chats within the city. The reality is there's an enormous amount of muscle in the city, and if our companies, some of them engaging in activity which is exacerbating the problem, then it's right that we should be talking to those companies and addressing those issues, as Noble Baroness pointed out. But the UK is working with international partners and really across the world to address illicit mining, including through the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, which contributed to the establishment of transparency provisions in the 2018 Mining Code. We've launched our own critical mineral strategy for the first time, which aims both to improve the security of supply of critical minerals, and that matters because there is such dominance of that sector by China at the moment. But through that, we're also using our ODA to help countries develop critical mineral resources in a market-led, transparent way, respecting human rights and also the broader environmental goals.
My Lords, the Congo rainforest is the second largest in the world and sequesters 1.2 billion tonnes of carbon every year. And the recent discovery there of the largest area of tropical peatlands in the world increases climate risk for the whole world if the rainforest is destroyed. The Minister will know of our pivotal role in the Central Africa Forests Initiative, a deal negotiated and agreed at the COP26 in Glasgow. So could he answer accusations from NGOs that governance and enforcement safeguards have proven to be utterly inadequate to safeguard the sustainable use by people whose livelihoods depend on the forests?
But the Noble Baroness is right to highlight the importance of the DRC. As I said, it holds 60% of the Congo Basin. The Congo Basin as a whole provides anything up to 2/3 of the rainfall for Africa. So it's not just a climate issue. If it goes, so does the rainfall, and we're facing a humanitarian crisis on a scale that we've never had to consider, let alone deal with. So this is a priority, and that's reflected in what we agreed at COP. Now, we're relatively new to this issue in the DRC. We have plenty of work around the world in relation to forests, but not so much in the DRC. We secured a commitment of $1.7 billion from international donors, including the UK. That money is beginning to flow. 300 million so far has already landed on the ground. We have only just joined CAFI, the initiative the Noble Baroness mentioned. We'll be chairing it as of March next year. I will be taking a very active role in CAFI, and we hope to use that vehicle to ensure delivery of the rest of that finance actually provides the results that we know we desperately need in that region. The final point is the other countries in the Congo Basin are in a very different place. The Republic of Congo is doing remarkable things, keeping deforestation more or less stable. Gabon too, a country I've spoken about many times in our debates, which is a particular problem with the DRC, which happens to be the main area of forest, and that's why our focus will very much be on the DRC.
My Lords, the Noble Baroness Bennett referred to the fact that the Glencore had agreed to pay $180 million to the DRC. What work is the British government doing with local civil society, but as well as international organisations, to ensure that that money is spent in the way it should be spent, rather than also becoming subject to corruption?
My Lords, the DRC is a country that is riven by corruption. As I said, it's estimated that corruption in the round costs around 10% of the country's GDP, and a big chunk of that relates to resource exploitation. So a prerequisite for ensuring that the aid we invest in the DRC, not least the money that I was just talking about in relation to forests, and we intend to escalate and increase that